Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Some candidates for the 2022 national elections are now withdrawing their candidacies, and no less than retired General and former NTF-ELCAC head Antonio Parlade was identified as a substituting presidential bet. To tell us more, we have with us Greg Gregorio. He's reporting to us live from COMELEC office in Intramuros, Manila. Greg, good afternoon. Can you tell us the latest on these candidates?
Yes, Risa, former Labor Secretary Marianito Roque has withdraws his candidacy from the senatorial race in the upcoming 2022 elections. Marianito Roque filed the COC for senator under Lakas CMD party on October 8, but due to challenges in launching a national campaign amid this pandemic, Roque decided to withdraw his candidacy today. He said he informed the party about this decision, and when asked if someone would substitute in his spot, he said he can't speculate about the party's decision. Though based on the statement of withdrawal submitted to the COMELEC Law Department, it says current Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III will be his substitute. Secretary Bello has yet to confirm whether he will be joining the senatorial race as substitute, but in a statement, Labor Department Information and Publication Service Director Rolly Francis says the secretary has yet to decide about the matter and continuing his job as DOLE chief as of the meantime. Riza, meanwhile, Antonio Valdez, who filed his COC for president under Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino on October 7, has withdrawn his candidacy and indicated in a statement of withdrawal that Antonio Parlade Jr. will replace his spot. Riza?
Thank you for those updates. That's Greg Gregorio reporting live from COMELEC office in Manila. Now, around 1.2 million doses of Moderna vaccines arrived in the country today. The government procured the newly arrived vaccines. So far, over 123 million COVID-19 jabs have arrived in the country. 69 million doses have been administered. Out of this number, 37 million were given as first dose, while 31 million people have been fully vaccinated. The Social Welfare Department reports a 264% increase in online sexual abuse among children during the pandemic. In an interview with the chiefs, DSWD spokesperson Glenda Relova said that the online sexual abuse and exploitation of children surged amid the pandemic and lockdowns. Relova also said that majority of the perpetrators were the parents and relatives of the children. She adds that the number of girls and boys being exploited are nearly the same.
Usually almost pantay na rin tayo between women and boys and girls, almost. So, lumalaki na rin yung percentage ng ating mga boys na na-exploit na rin. And sad to say that most of the perpetrators, sa profile po nila, yung talagang mga parents nila, tapos mga guardians, best friends. So, those people who are very much attached dito at yung mga victims natin, malaki yung trust dito sa ating mga perpetrators.
Raffy Tulfo remains on top of the list of the most preferred senatorial candidates for the 2022 polls. That's based on a survey commissioned by Stratbase ADR and conducted by the SWS from October 20 to 23. Tulfo also clinched the top spot in the September SWS survey. For October survey, former Senator Chis Escudero and former House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano came up as second and third in the ranking, followed by former Senator Loren Legarda and re-electionist Migs Zubiri. Statistically tied at 6th to 7th places are Riza Ontiveros and Jinggoy Estrada. Now completing the survey's magic 12 are Robin Padilla, Noli De Castro, and Joel Villanueva. Senatorials rank 13 to 20 in the nationwide survey are currently flashed on your screens. Davao City mayoral aspirant Rui Elias Lopez says the Dutertes are ruling Davao City through striking fear among their constituents. In an interview with One Balita Pilipinas, Lopez said that Davao City residents have feared the Duterte family for so long. And now that he has more free time, he wants to offer the people of Davao an alternative. Lopez also noted that Baste Duterte has yet to file his COC as a substitute of his sister. Despite this, the veteran lawyer says he's ready to face any Duterte in the elections, even President Rodrigo Duterte himself.
Oh, and it's all right with me. It will be my honor running against incumbent president, sitting president. And let's see. Let's see if the people have agreed or support what they have been doing. I'm just offering a alternative.
Meanwhile, a political analyst likened the 2022 polls to the fictional Squid Games, or in a layman's term, matira matibay. Professor Julio Tihanki says the sheer number of aspiring candidates can bring a tight race down to just a matter of 20 million votes. He says the more players chip in, the smaller margin they need to win. Tihanki added that we might see a repeat of the 1992 elections when we had 7 viable candidates and ended up with a minority president. That's former President Fidel Ramos, who won with a razor-thin edge over the late Miriam Defensor Santiago.
If BBM and Sara Duterte or Sara Duterte and BBM, if they join forces, then they're going to be the team to beat. Given the fact na masyadong maraming kandidato, no? Ito unahan lang sa as of last count, almost 63 million na, no? And if we average our voter turnout na 37, hindi lahat pupunta, no? So a candidate must capture only between 18 to 20 million votes, no? Ito ay parang political Squid Game, no? Matirang matibay kung sinong mauna sa 20 million.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. According to OCTA Research, most of COVID-19 deaths, or most of COVID-19 caused deaths, are from provinces with low vaccination rates. In an interview with us earlier, OCTA's Professor Guido David said that the reason for the consistent numbers of death recorded may be due to the lag between the onset of the disease and the patient's death. He also cited late recording as a possible cause. But he added that these deaths are mostly from provinces with low inoculation rates.
Most of the deaths are happening outside the NCR. Particularly in provinces where vaccination levels are still not as high as in the NCRs, because actually the death rate in the NCR is fairly low right now.
Meanwhile, David also said that the risk of a Delta variant surge is also lower now, as well as other newly reported variants of COVID-19. But as always, he reminds people to still observe minimum health protocols even amid eased restrictions.
The risk level is low actually now in the NCR and in many other regions around the NCR. This is comparable to the average last year before the surge. That being said, the virus is still out there. We should still be mindful of these threats to our public health.
Now, according to a public health expert, the government must rethink their immunization strategies toward long-term prevention of COVID-19. Johns Hopkins Andrew Pekosh says this may include booster shots and using other methods to urge people to get vaccinated. Let's watch this.
Is taking a harder stance or taking Singapore's stance of just kicking people off healthcare if they don't get vaccinated? Is that what has to happen to get more people vaccinated? Or have we moved to a place where it's really an individual choice and the public health concern has been really stripped away more significantly?
It still is the important thing is to get people vaccinated, and it starts with a safe and effective vaccine, and other ways you can move forward to get that in the population are things that are needed to be done, because we won't boost our way, as many people have said, we won't booster our way out of this pandemic. We have to get everybody to either get the vaccine or do things the hard way and suffer through infection to try to get some level of immunity. And we don't want the latter because of the cost that takes, not only on human suffering, but also the overload that it puts on our hospital system.
Do you assume, like tetanus, we have a reboost X number of months / years out?
So this is the most important thing about boosters that I feel isn't really talked about much, and that's COVID-19 is here to stay in the human population. We have to find now a way to turn these immunization strategies into ones that get us the longest and strongest immune response. Up until now, we've been focusing on short-term responses, getting protection in the population quickly. We've got to start rethinking these immunization schedules to induce long-term antibody levels. And I don't think that's going to need an annual booster, but it may take a booster over the course of, let's say, 2 or 3 years and a different schedule of vaccination to give us that long-term immunity that we need to keep this virus away for an extended period of time.
Meanwhile, the much-awaited Metro Manila Film Festival is set to return to movie theaters this year, starting December 25 until January 7. With this, Filipinos can watch 8 film entries of the annual film festival. MJ Marfori with the details.
As movie houses open, a well-loved festival is also making its return to theaters. The 47th Metro Manila Film Festival is finally back on the big screen. Entries include A Hard Day, Huling Ulan sa Tag-Araw, Huwag Kang Lalabas, Kun Maupay Man It Panahon, Love at First Stream, Nelia, The Exorcist, and Signal Entertainment's very own Big Night. This co-production with Idea First, Quantum, and Octoberian explores a different side to the government's drug war through the story of a gay beautician portrayed by Christian Bables.
A group of talents talking about basta may experience yung isa sa kanila na sa community nila may naging biktima ng riding in tandem, yung tokhang. But ang curious ako doon, they were laughing about it. They were making jokes, nagpa-punchline. Sabi ko, ganito na ba tayo?
For as long as yung karakter ay merong gustong sabihin, I think gagawin ko siya.
Joining Bables is a critically acclaimed cast, including Venice Film Fest Best Actor John Arcilia, Janice de Belen, Eugene Domingo, Gina Pareño, and Gina Alahar. For News 5, MJ Marfori, we are One News.
Let's now take a quick look at today's other top stories. Palace spokesman Harry Roque has failed to join the International Law Commission after garnering the least number of votes. Now, with vaccinations picking up around the world, the Philippines may soon face another hurdle, a global shortage of syringes. And a political analyst calls the presidential term sharing proposal a disgusting suggestion. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 2 in the afternoon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.